and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
Well, we live in a crazy world, I guess, right now.
A wee bit topsy-turvy.
Yeah, we are slap bang in the middle of the COVID-19 coronavirus global lockdown, I guess, aren't we?
At the minute, hopefully halfway.
Well, hopefully more than halfway through. It does seem that, we are flattening the curve, and hopefully within not many weeks, things will start to even out a little bit. I mean, if people are vigilant and do what they need to do, I don't know. It's just when we're listening to this in a few months' time and maybe even a year down the road, you'll go like, oh, God, yeah, we handled that fine. Or we probably look back on it and go, yeah, we didn't handle this very well at all, did we?
Or look outside and it's a nuclear wasteland. But, like I say, we'll see how it goes. And people, I would say everybody does their bit. I guess we'll...
So today's topic is the empathy gap. So do you want to kind of give a little bit of an intro? Because it's something that we've been saying that we're going to discuss for the longest time, isn't it?
Yeah, I heard a podcast a while ago, before Christmas now, actually, about this subject, and it just kind of spiked my interest. The podcast wasn't really about diet and exercise so much, but I sort of listened to it and sort of how it tied in and did a little bit more research and then found, yeah, it really does tie in. So the empathy gap, really, why we're bad at making decisions. If you look up the literal meaning, it's the cognitive bias, difficult for people to account for the manner in which differences in mental state affect the way we make decisions. So that's kind of a little bit wordy and a little bit long-winded. And some examples of kind of empathy gap would be, I go to the grocery store and don't understand why I buy junk food. I walk in there thinking I'm not going to buy anything or leave the house, and I'm not going to do that. People say, oh, I'm going to start a workout regimen 6 a.m. every morning 3 times a week, and 5:30 in the morning the alarm clock goes on, you just hit snooze. Why? Because you were all set to do it. I've got a project to do for school or for work or whatever, and I'm not going to watch YouTube videos all night or watch the TV or put my feet up. But 9 times out of 10 we do, and we end up rushing it in the end. So again, a lot of whys and why we do all these things. And researchers have found it's different emotional states that are basically like primal factors within us. So these states would be like hunger, thirst, physical pain, craving, sexual desires, all the things that are kind of in us that are these primal factors that can influence our brains at decision-making times.
And the reason we experience this empathy gap, like you say, is because of that human cognition, and it's state dependent. So we process information and make decisions based on what our mental and emotional state is at any given time. And so when we're actually full after a meal, we find it difficult to predict how we're going to feel when we're actually hungry. And you saying about grocery shopping, it's like when people go grocery shopping and they're hungry, they actually buy that junk food.
Well, of course. And I mean, grocery shops know all this. And I mean, if you go in there kind of not feeling overly hungry, a lot of grocery stores have a coffee pot and the bakery is always by the front door.
Ooh.
Because warm, hot coffee smell and fresh bread smell is going to make you hungry and it can affect your decision-making processes. And again, the grocery stores are there to sell you things. So anything they can do to make you buy more, they're all over it.
And actually, I have like a story to share that when it comes to going to the grocery stores hungry, and again, it is like we're going to touch on this about like habits and whether it's in your routine and how you mentally process decisions. But I've had it myself where I've been caught out. So maybe I'm seeing clients and something's happened. I've not been able to get home, or I was in such a rush to like grab something healthy to take with me. And I remember like calling you one day on the way to one of my clients, and I said like, oh, I didn't get home today. I'm just going to go and pick up something to grab to eat before I go and see my next client. And you actually said to me on the phone, oh, enjoy your sushi from Safeway.
Oh, I know you well.
Because like, if I'm hungry and I go into a grocery store, I'm not going to buy junk food, but that's what we're going to talk about, the empathy gap today, like, you know, obviously on your habits. And if I go in there, I'm going to buy soup or sushi. If you're keto or low carb, whatever, then yes, sushi is not the best thing that you're going to make the choice to buy. But when it comes to nutrient-dense foods and healthier options, sushi is one of those ones. You've got your proteins, fats, carbs in one mouthful, and a lot of the soups are like made on site. And so my go-to, if I'm caught out, is sushi and soup. Or if I go into a grocery store, but that's me personally, because I have it in my routine and that's my habit.
So, and again, these different emotional states, these primal emotional states, really can have a big factor. The original podcast I listened to, one of the things they did is they gathered a group of women and then asked these women, if you were in a job interview and the job interviewer started asking you like suggestive questions like, do you always wear a bra to work? Do you mind if like a male co-worker kind of asked you out on a date, or just kind of you're working together in quite close proximity? And the women who they were interviewing, asking the question, they were like up in arms. I would slap him in the face. I'd tell the interviewer I'd just walk out. And so they got another group of women, again, very similar to the first group, and they actually put them in an interview situation and asked them the actual questions. And when they were in an interview setting, the majority of them just answered the questions. They didn't get up, they weren't irate, they didn't wave their arms in the air, like they all said they would in a different state. And again, the researchers just found this amazing, that the pressure of the interview and answers being expected of them in the interview gave them a completely different mental state than somebody just asking them a question when a job wasn't actually riding on that process.
Right, so the empathy gap, like you say, you believe that you will act in a certain rational and positive way in a certain situation if you were presented with it, but you end up actually failing to act how you predict that you will act. And so, like you say, that second group, they think that they would act in a certain way, but when push comes to shove, they don't. And
how many times have you kind of been to, I don't know, with a loved one or somebody you're angry with, and you're marching over there to go and talk to them, you've got all your story in your head, and then as soon as you stand there, something else completely different comes out. Because again, you're in that different mental state from one to the other. These two mental states, the researchers who were looking at this basically categorized them as hot and cold. So in the hot state, you are influenced by these primal impulses, and in the cold state, you're emotionally neutral. So again, that emotion and neutral, you sat at home, oh, I'm just making my grocery list, this is what we're going to buy, and then you wait to the grocery store, you get hungry. Now those primal impulses, now you've changed from cold to hot. So you walk in a hot state, and all of a sudden you start to buy lots of different things. And again, we all experience empathy gap because, again, of our thoughts and actions. And again, these are state dependent, and our decisions are strongly dependent on our current mental state. It also works on the flip side. I mean, I've done it before, and probably other people have who've like worked out pretty hard. You'll do a workout in something like hill runs. You'll get to the end of it and think, I almost died. This almost killed me. There's no way I'm going to do this again. And a week later, you're back. You're back at the bottom of the hill, running up and down like a crazy person. And so it can work both ways. It isn't necessarily one just in a kind of negative way, I guess. It can work out positively as well. And you can basically make yourself do things. And again, not only the mental states of hunger, but happy and sad, stressed and not stressed. I mean, there's lots of different mental states that can, again, affect how we make decisions. So one thing, again, as me and Karen were researching it, people that, like Karen did, when she went to the grocery store and she chose sushi for one specific reason. And the specific reason is, Karen?
The reason I chose it is because my lifestyle's built around my goals. I want to stay healthy from a physical and emotional perspective. And I chose something nutrient dense because I know that it's like going to keep me in a healthy state. And it's like you say, it's my goal to stay healthy. And I don't have an issue with like slightly higher carb diet. So I just choose something that fits my lifestyle and goals, long-term goals.
And that's the key to this whole podcast, really, with the empathy gap, because no doubt people are listening, oh, yeah, that's me. And then when we've done things, people will say to us, well, it's okay for you because you don't, whatever, fill in the blank. But it's okay for us because our lifestyle is built around our goals. Our goal is to stay healthy, to stay fit and active, and our lifestyle revolves around that. This is why fad diets and doing 6-week plans with like losing weight don't work long term, because your lifestyle isn't built around that. And this is the difference with the empathy gap with people that are successful, like in previous podcasts we've done, like with Rhonda and Mark and like with Megan. And then you listen to the podcast and, oh, it was easy for them. It wasn't easy for them at all. It wasn't easy for us. They, as we have done, in the end, turned around and built, again, our lifestyle around our goals. So when it comes to making decisions, whether we're emotionally neutral or whether we're influenced by primal impulses, those decisions tend to be better because, again, it's our lifestyle, and our goal at the end of the day is not to lose weight, is not to look good in a swim outfit, is not just a short-term goal. It's our goal to actually be healthy for as long as we can. And I think this is kind of the take-home point of this whole kind of podcast, again, like I said, with the empathy gap, is that, again, we're looking to build that lifestyle around those goals. And really, I think, like Megan and Mark and Rhonda and other people we've ever spoke to, it's the number one thing you've got to do. It's got to be your lifestyle. Again, we've said before, it's an old cliche, but this kind of just explains why it's got to be that lifestyle, because it affects all our decisions from top to bottom.
And the empathy gap can obviously cause people to be unprepared for situations. So when they're affected by various like emotional considerations, so that cause them to do things that satisfy their urges and things like cravings in the short term, and it actually, which fails to help them actually accomplish their long-term goals. And so the empathy gap, a lot of people are focusing in that, like, I guess, immediate gratification, isn't it? And like, they're not looking at the long-term like goals, they're struggling to accomplish it.
And again, like I say, how many people have we seen online do these 6, 10, 12-week things, and then 6 weeks later they're back to where they started again, because their lifestyle never changed. Their short-term goal was to do what it was. And then as soon as, like we've said before, a lot of the MLM stuff is, what do you do at the end of it? If your lifestyle is built around those goals, then you know what to do at the end of it. Just keep doing what you were doing and continue on. So again, I think we've probably rattled this one to death a little bit, and hopefully we've made you think. And again, do some research on the empathy gap yourself. I mean, there are videos on YouTube and lots of articles out there on this. And again, we just kind of wanted to bring this one to the fore because it does answer one of those kind of questions that we're always being asked by people is, oh, how come you do it and we can't do it all the time? And probably it's just you're unaware of, again, how those primal impulses can affect your decision making. And like Megan said in the podcast with her, that decision fatigue will soon overtake you, and the less decisions you've got to make, the better. So a little bit of preparation, and also, again, think about the state of mind you're in when you're making decisions and move onward and upward. Hopefully we'll survive another week in this pandemic of the world at the minute, and we'll talk to you then.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.